There are countless clipboard tools out there. Some of them are fairly simple, like WL Clipboard and Xclip. Some of them have a GUI interface like CopyQ. But over the past couple of months, I've been seeing one particular project constantly showing up in my feed. The dev is trying to make sure that absolutely everybody knows it exists, and every time some sort of update happens to the project, this is a project called Clipboard, and somehow it has an AUR package with that name. I don't know how there wasn't already a project called Clipboard. Now, the general idea is simple. It's supposed to unify copy, cutting, and pasting into a seamless workflow, along with adding in some nice little additions. Now, when you actually want to use the command, in prior versions, you could write out the full word clipboard. Currently, this is still going to work, but it is deprecated with plans for removal next version. So from now on, what you should be writing out is just CB. So, the basic operations work as you may expect. Let's go and copy something. This is done with the copy command. Now, when we are copying things, when we are pasting things, when we are doing basically anything with the application, it doesn't matter if we're working with files, folders, text, we are using the exact same commands. There's not a separate file command, a separate text command, or anything like that. Let's say I want to go and copy this untitled PNG. All I do is just pass in the name. We can also list out multiple things at once. I could list out multiple of this file, I could mix and match between files and folders, or anything like that. And if we want to go and copy text instead, all we do is just pass in a text string. Now, when we are copying text, we do have the option of piping text in as well. So I could go, pipe in hello, and then that is going to copy it. Now, the cut command is interacted with in the exact same way. The only difference is when you are cutting text, it's obviously not cutting it from anywhere, so for text, it acts exactly the same as a copy. But if we are cutting a file like that untitled PNG, it is going to cut the item, and that item, if we go and check now, I can't spell, is going to be there until we paste it. Let's go and paste it somewhere like my pictures directory. So if we go and do CB, paste, that file has now been pasted. If we go and check in here, there should be an untitled PNG, and if we go back to our home directory, untitled, it is no longer here. Now, when you are pasting text, you are generally going to want to redirect that into a file. Let's say text.txt. But if you don't redirect it, it is still going to be pasted to a file, just not a file that you made yourself. This is going to be a default file called raw data.clipboard. So this one right here, and it's going to contain whatever content you had in that clipboard. Generally, it is going to be a better idea to redirect it somewhere, but just know it is still going to work. On that note, if you do paste something and there's already a file there with a matching name, it's going to prompt you for what you want to do. In this case, I'm just going to say skip, and we're going to go to the next thing. So far, we have just been scratching the surface. Everything we've done has been with Clipboard 0. This is the same as your general system clipboard. If I go and do CB copy, add in this random text here, and then we go and run CB show, this is going to show us the contents in Clipboard 0. If I then go and say copy a file I have over here, and we run the exact same thing again, now that file is there instead. But there are other clipboards we can work with, and the way we do that is just appending a number for the clipboard we want to use. Let's do CB, copy, and let's say clipboard number 3, and then pass in some text. If we now do CB show, that is going to show the contents of Clipboard 0. But if instead we do CB show 3, now it shows that contents. If you want to see the contents of every clipboard, what you can do is run CB by itself. Now, this style of interaction is consistent across basically every command. So if I want to go and say, paste something from Clipboard 3, I would go CB paste 3. If I want to do it for Clipboard 5, that would be 5. Clipboard 7, so on and so forth. The exact same thing with cut, the exact same thing with copy, the exact same thing with show. It is a very consistent method of handling these clipboards. Now, you might be thinking, how many clipboards are there? Well, there's not an arbitrary limit of 5, 10, anything like that. Let's go and do CB, copy, and let's say, I don't know, 69, 69, 69, 69, and then pass in haha funny number. And that worked. Now if we do CB, as we can see, we have content in 0, 3, and 69, 69, 69, 69. At least from my testing, it doesn't seem like there's any real limit on the number of clipboards you can have. Now, there is a limit in the number that would actually be practical to use, but that's a whole separate problem. If you have some reason why you need such a ridiculous number of clipboards, the option is absolutely going to be there. Now, these clipboards are just regular clipboards that are going to disappear when you reboot your system. Your other option is to use a persistent clipboard, and these do have a nice feature about them as well. Let's say we want to go and copy into persistent clipboard number 1. We add an underscore and then 1. Let's go and do, I don't know, some random text here. If we go CB, as we can see, it's in persistent clipboard 1, and it even mentions it with a P here. The other difference we have is we can actually have named clipboards. Let's say this is the random text clipboard. That copies with that name there. CB, as we can see, random text. With the regular clipboards, you are not able to have named clipboards. So if I do CB copy again, and then add in some random letters here, this is not going to work. It's going to say the command doesn't exist. Now, especially when dealing with these numbered clipboards, it can get kind of confusing what each clipboard is supposed to be for. One way you can address this is attaching a note. This is basically a little descriptor telling you what the clipboard actually does. Once again, if you want to give it to number 0, don't have to give a number. Number 3, give it 3, so on and so forth. And the same with the persistent clipboards, just use that persistent clipboard name. I'm going to do it on clipboard 3. Let's say this is the junk clipboard. Now that has a note attached, and we can check that note with CB info and then the number. And here it tells us all the information. It tells us the clipboard name, where that clipboard is stored, whether it is persistent, the amount of data in it, whether it is locked or not, which I don't believe is something actually implemented yet. I at least couldn't find an option on how to lock it, and then also the note attached. Now, if we go and check one that doesn't have a note, it's just going to say there is no note here. Another neat thing we can do is load in additional data to a clipboard without removing the content already contained with it. Let's say I copy this untitled PNG again, and I realize, wait, maybe I needed something else in that clipboard as well. What we can do is CB add, and then add in some other file. Let's say this one right here. If we do CB, now we can see there are multiple things in that clipboard, even though we just started with one. The same can also be done in reverse with the remove command. This can be done in two separate ways. Either we can remove a very specific thing like the untitled file, and then if we go right here, that file is now gone, or we can do a regex. This one is going to be on clipboard 2 this time. And let's say I want to remove anything E onwards. If we go and check this now, all that is left here is the H. Another thing we can do is rather than manually copying the data between multiple clipboards, we can actually just copy the clipboard directly over. I'm not redoing that take. What we can do is CB, load, and then let's say I want to copy the content of 0, for example. So we're going to include no number into clipboard, I don't know, 2 and 3. If we go and do that, and then run CB, now that data is copied over. And when you're done with everything, the last thing you want to do is clear all the clipboards. This can be done with CB clear. Now, this does require a number. There is currently no way to automatically clear everything. This would be very nice to see, and hopefully comes in a future version. Now we can see all of that data is now gone. That's pretty much everything you can do. Now, the GitHub does include a bunch of extra information about different options, different ways you can write out the commands, an example of like how you can use this in a practical setting, how you can use this with scripting, things like that, how you configure the application, done primarily through environment variables, but there are a couple of options available as well. But most of this stuff is pretty straightforward, and one of the things this application does really well, at least in the online documentation, is document it really well. So it's pretty easy to understand what's going on, and the rest of it should be straightforward. I've known about this project for probably a good couple of months. I think I first heard about it back when it first started, actually. But I did try it back then. The issue is it was very buggy back then, so I didn't really feel like doing a video on it. I don't think it was going to really do it justice. And waiting a few months, it seems like it's coming together pretty well. For a lot of people, maybe this is overkill. Maybe something like WO Clipboard or XClip does everything you need. But if you want something a bit more powerful, but you can still interact with it from your terminal, maybe Clipboard is worth looking at. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you use any sort of clipboard manager application, clipboard interaction tool, or do you just copy and paste things and not really care what's going on in the background? I would love to know. So if you like this video, go and like the video, and if you really like the video and you want to become one over these amazing people over here, check out the Patreon, Scribe, Stally, Bearer Pay, linked in the description down below. That's going to be it for me, and Clippy is great. Don't hate on Clippy.